number 8. Number 8 should be a quick hitter on the test. You're going to notice that both the graphs say the same thing. -3, 3, they both look like this because the graph is not any different. It's asking when is -x² plus 9 greater than 0. That is the graph of -x² plus 9. First off, I know that because it's facing down. There's the y-intercept. What it's asking is when is it greater than 0? What does that mean? If this is going to be greater than 0, that means I'm going to plug in an x and it's going to turn into an output. So basically they're asking when is this output greater than 0? What does that really mean? Not when is x. When is y positive. So I want to look on this graph and say, where is y positive? Where is y positive? That would be this section, correct? How do I tell the person the inputs that get me the outputs that they desire? They desire a y that's positive. I tell them the input that gets them the desired output. What would I have to tell them? You have to use x's between what? And so that would be as in a interval from -3 to +3. That's the one that you're going to pick, which would be B as an answer. What does the other interval describe? It describes where this would be less than 0, the y being negative. That's what A describes. Yes? Number 9, -x minus 2y equals 7. 3x plus 6y equals 6. I could do this one by substitution. It actually wouldn't be that bad. Why could I do this one by substitution? Nope. I can get x by itself fairly easy. Because no, 2 doesn't go into all those numbers. 3 doesn't go, I guess 3 does. You can do 3 with that one. But this x is sitting here all by itself. So what I could do is I can get the x by itself really easily. Right, Nick, you understand that? These cancel out. -x equals 2y plus 7. It's a y. Now what do I have to do? What? I can't plug in right now. Why can't I plug in right now? There's a negative with the x. It has to say x equals. How can I get rid of the negative? Multiply everything by a -1. And if I multiply everything by a -1, all that really does is do what? When I multiply anything by a -1, what does it do? No, it does not. Someone finally said it. It changes the sign, meaning my -x becomes what? Positive x. My positive 2y becomes a -2y. My positive 7 becomes a -7. It changes the sign of each of them. So I use this one to solve for x. These two equations are the same exact equation. This one right here and that right there are the same exact equation. I just changed the way it looked, but they are identical. Which means I can't plug this x in. I can't take and put this in place of this x. It won't work. Whichever one you use to make it say x equals, you have to plug in to the other equation. You must. That is the only thing about substitution. Now, if I plug in the x for that, so I plug in, I take the x out, I plug this in. Now, how many variables are going to be in this equation? One type. What are going to be the only variables? Chloe, come on with me. What are going to be the only variables in this equation? Y. Do you follow what I just said? Then I can distribute, combine my terms, and get y isolated, which means it says y equals, and it will actually say a number. Yes? That would be substitution. I don't like substitution. I would rather do elimination. If it doesn't tell you which way to do, you can do whichever one you want. Just know how to do it. This right here, I would multiply this by 3. Why would I multiply it by 3? Because then the 3x and the negative 3x would cancel out. So if I multiply it by 3, it becomes negative 3x minus 6y equals 21. We're going to worry about that in just a second. That is, yes, that is the truth. When I do this, the x's cancel out. Goodbye. Actually, the y's also cancel out. When something cancels out, what does it turn to, though? No. It turns into 0. I don't know if it's no solution or infinite yet. I don't know why this thing is doing this crap. This turns into a 0. Equals, when I add these together, a 27. Now, because I see that 0 does not equal 27, what is my answer? No solution. Everybody understand the answer to this question is no solution. I'm going to change this problem. Remember how I told you you can't decide just because both these cancel it out, you can't tell whether it's a no solution or infinite yet? Because watch what happens when I change this problem. 2 times 3, or negative 2, is a negative 6. Now when I combine a negative 6 and a positive 6, I get 0 equals what? And when does 0 equal 0? Now that would be an infinite amount of solutions. All solutions. So when these cancel out, what number do you need to write underneath them? When both of them cancel out, what number do you need to write here? And then you have to see what does it equal and see yes it is true or no it's false. That's what decides whether it's infinite or no. You follow me? Going with me? I'm going to move on to number 12. We're going to do 12, 13, 14, and then I'm going to come back to 10 and 11. When I'm taking this test, this is just smart test taking. All these questions are worth the same amount of points. So you see how fast we did number 8? That's worth maybe, say, 5 points. Guess how much 10 is worth? 5 points. What I'm telling you is 10 and 11 are where you should spend the majority of your time on this test. So if it's me, I'm doing 1 through 9. I'm getting to 10 and 11, and guess what I'm doing to those 2? I'm skipping them. I'm going to go over, I'm going to finish the rest of the test, then I'm coming back, and I'm taking the rest of the time to do 10 and 11, because I want to take my time. I want to work through them slowly, because I know if I forget a negative sign, or forget a multiplication, or how to add a positive negative, the whole thing's screwed up. So I'm going to take my time. So in order to do that, I'm going to kind of do the other ones that are easier and faster first, so I can really take my time on 10 and 11. Does that make sense? So, number 12. Huh? Yep, number 12. If I was graphing number 12, I'm going to, again, try to do the easiest things first. Of those graphing, which one's the easiest of the 4 to graph? Oh, you said the last 2. I thought you said plus 2. I was like, what? The last 2, yes. X is greater than or equal to 0. If I want x is greater than or equal to 0, remember x equals lines are the ones that go up and down. So this is the line where x equals 0. And if it says x has to be greater than or equal to 0, it's going to be anything to the right of the y-axis. Remember how I said if x equals 4? What if I said I want you to graph, I have no idea what this board is doing right now, but it's irritating me. What if I said I want you to graph the point 4 something? But what's really happening is if I ask you to graph the ordered pair 4, 5, I'm asking you, you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Well, this whole line, what do I know to be true on that whole line? The x equals 4. And then when I ask you to go to y equals 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you draw a line here, right? The ordered pair is the spot where both of those happen. That is 4, 5. But the line for x equals 4, because it's how far you move to the right. Did that help out?
Yeah.
So, if I'm going to graph x is greater than or equal to 0, it's going to be anything here. And if I'm going to graph y is greater than or equal to 0, it's going to be anything above here. So right now, where is the only place that this graph could, or this ordered pair could happen so far with just knowing those two things? In the quadrant 1, it could only happen in here, which what do I know? And it doesn't help me in this question per se, but it might help me later on. What does that mean? Both of my things have to be in my ordered pair. The x and y both have to be positive. So you could possibly look at these, your answer choices, and anyone that had any negative, you could automatically throw that one out. You understand what I just said? Now, next thing, I need to graph (3x plus 3y) being less than 45. What form is that in? Standard form. What is standard form good for? What is standard form good for? The x and the y intercept. What do I know to be true when I'm on the x-axis? If I'm on the x-axis, I'm on this line. I haven't gone up or down anything, which means I guarantee you your y to be 0, yes? If y is 0, when I plug that in, what's 3 times 0? 0. What's 3x plus 0? Just 3x, right? So it's like this kind of cancels out. Do you follow what I mean by that? And that happens every single time in standard form. And then 3 times what is 45? 15. Yes? And then it's like I do, okay, I got 1 point. How can I get a second point? Well, what if I make x 0? If I make x 0, doesn't this thing go away? And just because this is a 3 and this is a 3, they end up being like the same number, 15, 0, and 0, 15. Will that always happen like that? Nope. So 15, I'm just going to put it here. And 15, I'm just going to put it here. And what kind of line am I going to draw with it? This is, yeah, all lines are straight. Can't have a crooked line. Why am I drawing a solid line? Because it's equal to, what else kind of line could I have drawn? But because it's equal to, that's what's the difference between those two, right? That's why I'm drawing it solid. I have no idea what's going on. Does that make sense? Then I pick 0, 0, and I test it in here. So it's like I put a 0 in for this x, and I put a 0 in for this. I'm testing 0, 0. My question is that good or is that point bad? Because remember, one whole side of the line is true, one whole side of the line is false. So I put a 0, 0. If I put a 0 in for 3, it turns to 0, right? If I put a 0 in for y, it turns into 0. 0 plus 0 is 0 less than 45. That means the 0, 0 is on the true side. So where is the spot that the order pair could happen now? In this little triangle area so far. You with me? I got one more to graph. And again, it's in what form? So I'm going to do almost the same, I'm going to do the same exact thing, just the numbers are going to be different. So it's going to be 2x plus y less than or equal to 20. I'm going to do two separate order pairs. One time where I make my x 0, one time where I make my y 0. Yes or no? If I plug a 0, 1 for x, this goes away. Right? Oh, what in the world did I just do? Where did it go? There it is. If I put a 0 in for x, what does y turn to? No. If I put a, that goes away. Y equals 20. No, some people said 0. Do you get what I'm talking about now? If I put a 0 in for y, this goes away. What does x equal? 10. So I plot those 2 points. 10, 0, which would be 10 here, right there. The other one is 20, 0, 20. And it's a solid line because it's equal to. So I put a solid line in there. Does everybody see now? Now does 0, 0 make it true or false? That's the question. Because I need to figure out where I'm shading. 0 turns this to 0, 0 plus 0 is 0. Is 0 less than 20? Yes, it is. That means that it's the underneath side, which now means it's only. Someone's hacking you. This is very unfortunate and very, very frustrating. It doesn't make sense on why it doesn't. It just drops connection. So it's 0, 0 is the good side, which means I'm in here. So I'm looking for order pairs that follow that spot. So if I look at that, 12, 1. 12, 1 would be, that's 10. So this is 12 and 1. Is that in the good area? No, it's not in the good area. Remember, it has to be in this here. 12, 1 is not in that. How about 2, 15? Well, 2 would be about here. 15 would be up there. Is that in the good section? No. How about 10, 4? This is point 10, and up 4 would be around there. Is that in the good section yet? No. How about 5, 4? Yes, that'd be in the good section. So your answer should have been B.
When you have 3 variables and 3 equations, could you put a 0 for x and y to find z?
No. No, because then you're making x and y equals 0, and you don't, that's not, can't do that.
Oh, okay.
When you have 3 variables, you got to do the process that I showed you. All right, 13. A group of 36 people attended a ball game. There were twice as many children as adults in the group. Set up a system of equation that represents the number of children and adults who attended the game. First off, that last part tells me how many, what types of people attended this game. Children and adults. That tells me there's how many variables, Chloe? 2. So that means I need to come up with what? 2 equations. Well, if there's children and adults, what are my variables going to be? C and A, yes? Children and adults. If there's 36 people in the game total, how would I get that? What would I have to do to get 36? You would take how many children were in attendance, add it to how many adults were in attendance, and that should equal 36. So the first equation should have been A plus C, that how many kids and how many adults should equal 36. Now the next one's a little trickier. If I said, Daisy, I have twice as much money as you, and you have $5, how much do I have? And the way that you got that was you actually, it sounds weird because I said, Mr. Martin has twice. So the 2 sounds like it's by Mr. Martin. You get what I mean by that? Yes or no? So what do you think kids, when they want to write that equation down, they want to put like 2 by my name? Okay? But what did we actually do? We multiplied hers because who has more money? So she needs the help, the multiplier, to get to me. Think about that as I'm reading this next part. There were twice as many children as adults. Who has more people there? Are there more kids or more adults? There's more kids. So who needs the help? So that means I'm going to have to do what to the adults? Double the adults to get to what I have for the children. Does that make sense now? Now, we didn't ask you to do this, but just because I like to push ourselves, what way would be the best way to solve this one? Substitution or elimination? Yes, there is a right answer that, yes, you could do both of them, but there is one that's easier than the other. Substitution is going to be very easy in this problem because all you have to do is take the C out and put 2A in its place. 2A plus 1A is 3A. 3A, you would divide by 3, and you would get 12 equals my A. Yes? Yeah. Good? Questions on that? There'd be 24 adults, or 24 children. Good? Next one. This is real life crap, right? Go to a rental. I do this like when I don't do like a rental car, but like when I'm looking at my cable, the way they charge your cable. You ever seen the ads where they say, oh, you can get cable for only $44 a month? Like that's what they're trying to sell Spectrum for right now. Well, where they get you is, yes, you can get it for $44, but they charge you every time you know the little box that you have to have, they charge you $10 per box that you have. So if you have 4 TVs, you got 4 of those boxes. Does that make sense? So now it's $84 a month. Well, maybe you go with WOW, and WOW charges $60 a month, but they only charge, $3 for those little boxes. They charge a lot up front for the cable, but they don't charge very much for their receivers. So there's different times in your life where you're going to actually have to figure out, hey, I need this many receivers. How much is it going to cost me? I need this many. How much is it going to cost me? And then you can compare which one you're going to go with. I mean, I literally do that on the daily. Like I'm about to purchase internet, and I'm going to go look and see whose I'm going to get. And I'm looking at like T-Mobile, how they have those little hotspots. Is that a good deal, or should I just get like Bright House or Spectrum or whatever? Like I'm looking at those and I'm comparing. Okay, what do you actually charge me for? Because what they say in the beginning isn't always what they charge, right? You got to find out those things, huh? Does it? Yeah, it's one. Well, it's about the only one that we have in the area. All right. So, a rental car agency charges a flat fee of $138. That means as soon as you sign the paperwork saying you're taking the car, everybody gets charged $138. Make sense? And then they only charge what? 27 per day. So if I was coming up with an equation, I want to know how much it's going to cost me, depending on what? How many days? So there's my 2 variables. You with me? Cost versus days. So let's come up with an equation for that. Cost is going to equal what? Can I change that to 27D plus 138? I just like my variables. Like, is that okay? That's just community property. So come up with the next one. Another agency charges a flat fee of $47. So they don't charge as much up front, but they charge $40 per day to rent the same exact car. What would their equation be? What? 40D, $40 per day, plus the flat fee of 47. So if I was only going to rent a car for 2 days, which company do you think I'm going to go with? Because I don't like to give my hard-earned money away. I want to go with the cheapest one, especially if it's the same car.
Second one?
I'm going to go with the second one, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to go with the second one up until a certain day. At a certain day, they said that they're going to be the same price. Then after that day, I'm going to go with the top company. Do you get what I mean by that? Because let's say we did 10 days. When I did 10 days, 10 times 40 is going to turn into $400. Whereas 10 times 27 is only going to be 270. You with me? And then when I add on this, it's only going to get me to 270 plus the 138, just under $400, right? A little just over $400, I should say. Whereas 400 plus 47 is going to be 447. So I'm going to go with the top company. So the longer I go, I'm probably going to choose the top company. If it's just a short trip, I'm going to choose the bottom one. There is a spot of days where no matter what, I could choose either of the companies, it's going to be the same price. So that's what they want us to find. So they said set it up and solve it. So how would I solve this? What process would you use? Huh? You could do either one. You could do substitution where you just did what? Good, you could plug that right into there. I'm going to do elimination just because that's what I do. You want me to do substitution? I'll do substitution. 40D plus 47 equals 27D plus 138. Doesn't matter if we did substitution or elimination, you're going to get the same thing. All right, which way would I bring my D's? I really worry about my variables more than I do my numbers. So which one would I bring my D? Do I want to bring the 27 to the 40 or the 40 to the 27? And why did I tell you to do that? I try to keep my variable positive. Kind of what you were saying. So then this is 13D. By the way, at the same time, is it okay if I move my other thing to the other side without you guys freaking out? Meaning, can I minus the 47 in the same kind of move? And I get 91. I divide by 13. And I realize after 7 days, it doesn't matter which one I choose, they're going to be the same amount of money that I'm going to pay. Make sense? Possibly the last one we're going to go over. Maybe we'll have time to go over some more. All right. Number 10, I'm going back to. Because the rest, number 15 and 16, we've done a bunch of those, right? Systems of equations. We're going back to the 3 one. X plus 3y plus z equals -6. 2x plus y plus 3z equals -4. -3x minus 3y minus 3z equals 6. So if it's me on this one, I'm going to get rid of my y's because my y can cancel out with this, and all I have to do is multiply this one by 3. And if I multiply this one by 3, then the y's would cancel out with the 2 and the 3. You following me in my process? So let's do 1 and 3 together. X plus 3y plus z equals -6. Negative 3x minus 3y minus 3z equals 6. When I combine those, it's a negative 2x. These cancel out, a negative 2z, and that equals 0. I then combine this one and this one. Oh, I'm sorry, I already did those. I'm then going to combine this one and this one, but the problem is the 2 one has to be what? The second equation. What do I have to do to it? Huh? Yep. In order for the y's to cancel out in the second one, what do I have to do? Multiply everything by 3. So that's why I'm going to turn it into a 6x plus 3y plus 9z equals a negative 12. Be careful on that. Make sure you multiply everything by that 3. And negative 3x minus 3y minus 3z equals 6. I didn't have to do anything to the bottom one. These guys cancel out like I wanted. 3x plus 6z equals a negative 6. Now I have two equations that only have 2 variables in it. Now I need to cancel out one of my other variables. Which variable do you want to cancel out? Either x or z? Sure. And why would I do z? All I gotta do is multiply the top one by 3, and then the z's will cancel out because it turns into a negative 6x minus 6z equals 0, because 3 times 0 is 0. And then this gets me 3x plus 6z equals a negative 6. These cancel out like they should. Negative 3x equals negative 6. Yes? Divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3, and I get x equals 2. Question on that? Now, since I know x is 2, what can I do? Okay. Yep. But what can I do? No, you're right. You can. What can I do to find my next? What's my next variable I'm going to find? Nope. I'm going to find z because I can use this equation right here where I plug in x, and then z is my only variable, so I can solve for it. So I'm going to go 3 times 2 plus 6z equals negative 6. 6 plus 6z equals negative 6. Minus 6 minus 6. 6z equals negative 12. Divide by 6. Z equals negative 2. Now I know my x and my z. What one do I not know? So does everybody see the middle one says this? The middle one says 2x plus y plus 3z equals a negative 4. Why would I choose that one to be the one I want to use to find y? Because the y is by itself, making it very easy. At the end, I don't have to do something. What would I have to do at the end of the top equation? Divide by? It's a 3y, so what would I have to divide by? Eventually, I'd have to divide by a 3 to get the y by itself. The next one is a negative 3y, the third one. What would I eventually have to divide by to get y by itself? A negative 3, what do I not have to do in this equation? I don't have to do any division. I just have to get the y isolated. Do you guys follow what I'm talking about? Was x negative 2? It was positive 2? Oh, this one should be negative 2. Don't screw that up. That will mess everything else up. This is 4. plus y minus 6 equals negative 4. Combine these two. Negative 2 plus y equals negative 4. Add 2. Add 2. Y equals negative 2. Yep. My answer would make sure you do this in the correctly. What is my x value? 2. What's my y value? And then z was, so it has to go x, y, z. Make sure you plug that in correctly. Absolutely. All right, I'm going to stop recording.